Welcome back. It's a major global exclusive. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. Bangladesh's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has exclusively spoken with ITV network just 6 days before an election is scheduled to be held in Bangladesh. From attacks on Hindus to Deepu Chandra Das to her party being banned in the Bangladesh elections, Hasina has spoken out on a range of issues. Well, joining us on the broadcast to share more details on this Global Newsx exclusive, let me bring in Brian Thomas, who's joining us live. Brian, give us more details about what Sheikh Hasina has told ITV network in this big global exclusive. What has she shared days ahead of the Bangladesh elections?
Well, Uday, clearly this is the biggest exclusive where we managed to have a major exclusive interaction with former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And clearly, like you mentioned, there were a range of issues that she spoke about, starting with she spoke about the recent killings of Hindus that said that they are not isolated crimes but signs of a broader climate of extremism and insecurity. Not only that, she was very blunt in her approach. She alleged that the Yunus-led interim government has failed to, failed to have its fundamental duty to protect minorities, and claiming that vulnerable communities are facing fear and even uncertainty ahead of the February 12 elections. And not only that, on the upcoming polls also, she spoke about polls that is just 6 days now from today, where she questioned their democratic legitimacy because they've been now barred to contest the elections. Not only that, she argued that barring her party from contesting and restricting political space undermines exclusivity. Not only that, she maintained that an election without full participation of major political forces cannot truly reflect the will of the people, and even the risks of creating a crisis of legitimacy. Very importantly, we even managed to ask questions related to the interim government's, description of the violence as criminal incidents that even Muhammad Yunus stated, where Sheikh Hasina clearly said that such terminology avoids acknowledging the deeper communal dimension of the attacks. And very importantly, Uday, we need to note, according to her, she even mentioned and she even said that the interim government is failing to recognize the religious, targeting behind the violence that prevents accountability and justice for victims. And very importantly, on Bangladesh's global standing, Hasina has clearly asserted that the economic growth and international goodwill achieved during her tenure are now under strain, and warned that political instability and absence of a clear democratic mandate are even weakening investor confidence and affecting the country's reputation abroad itself. Uday. Yes.
Right. In fact, we're getting breaking news now coming in. The first question that we asked the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh was on Bangladesh Hindus. We asked her that in the past few weeks, 15 Hindus have been reportedly killed, including Deepu Chandra Das in Mymensingh and Chanchal Bhaumik in Narsingri. We asked her if she feels that the Yunus-led interim government has failed to protect minorities. Hasina's exact response was the killings of Deepu Chandra Das, Chanchal Bhaumik and others are not isolated incidents. They are the direct consequences of a government that has empowered extremists, released convicted terrorists from prison and granted the perpetrators of horrific violence total impunity. The government's most basic duty is to protect all citizens equally. The Yunus administration has not merely failed in this responsibility, it has actively emboldened the persecution of the most vulnerable in our society. Today, human rights violations have become the norm, with Awami League members, minorities and women being mercilessly tortured and killed. Extremists from proscribed organizations like Hizb Tahrir have been elevated to positions of power, while members of the Jamaat-e-Islami, whose leaders were convicted of war crimes and undermined our independent struggle, stand at the heart of a political alliance poised to shape our future. During our years in government, we worked tirelessly to ensure people of all faiths could coexist peacefully. We protected minorities not as a matter of political convenience, but as a constitutional obligation. Today, that commitment has been abandoned, and Hindus, Buddhists, Christians and Ahmadi Muslims are paying the price with their lives. So clearly, Sheikh Hasina has spoken in detail on the Hindu persecution, on the state of minorities within Bangladesh. Brian, she's hit out at the Yunus dispensation. What has she said?
Well, yes, clearly. She spoke about the recent killings of Hindus that are not isolated intense incidents but reflect a broader climate of extremism and impunity. Not only that, she clearly alleged, and she did not shy away from alleging the Yunus government, saying that the Yunus led administration has empowered radical elements, even failed to ensure equal protection for citizens, and abandoned its constitutional responsibilities to safeguard minorities. So clearly, there were array of conversation that she clearly spoke about, and this the first question answers this itself. Yes, Uday.
All right. Ambassador Veena Sikri is also with us now on the broadcast. Former diplomat, Ambassador Sikri, a big, comprehensive, global exclusive with Sheikh Hasina speaking with our network. Let me begin by just talking about what you make of what she said on Hindu persecution in Bangladesh. What do you make of this response she's given and who she's held accountable for this?
Well, I think she has been very frank, and I agree with you that it's a global exclusive because of the way in which she has gone into this issue of attacks on minorities in the greatest detail that I've seen in other interviews that she may have given. But here she has gone into it in such detail, and the most important issue that she has raised is that the Yunus administration's efforts to describe these attacks on the minorities, the Hindu, Buddhist, Christians, and the Sufis and Ahmadiyas, to describe them as non-communal is a method to evade responsibility and accountability. So, actually, the Yunus administration has been trying to dismiss these crimes. First of all, they pretended they didn't exist. And Yunus has always said, oh, this is fake news from India. He always dismissed it like that. And because the media in Bangladesh is completely controlled, and none of the newspapers have had the temerity and the gall and the strength and the courage to write about this. They've just fudged the question altogether. So the Bangladesh media has let itself down very badly because they have really given up all responsibility on this very important issue. But Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has called a spade and said that the Yunus administration is evading responsibility by doing and accountability by doing this, and they have avoided the crucial aspect of the Bangladesh constitution, which talks about secularism and democracy and nationalism and social justice. And she spoke about her own government's efforts, in contrast with not taking any responsibility for the Hindu minorities and the other religious minorities, lynchings, rapes, killings, and destruction. She also spoke about how the Yunus administration has released all the Islamic terrorists, people who had been jailed by her administration, who had been responsible for terrorist attacks against innocent people in Bangladesh and had been jailed by her administration, have now been released. Actually, some of them have been released, just like that. People go in and open the gates and come out because it is a complete a lawless situation within Bangladesh. There is no rule of law. There is no accountability of any kind. And the army has been completely sidelined and completely on one side. They've not taken any action at all. In fact, in some places like Gopalganj, the army has even been known to fire upon those who were trying to protect in Tungipara, to protect the grave, the mausoleum of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So I think Sheikh Hasina has really called a spade, and she's also denounced these elections because her own party has been denied the permission to participate in the election. A party that has been voted into power 9 times, including an election conducted by the army in 2008, which brought in her 15-year rule. And it was one of the freest and fairest elections ever conducted in Bangladesh, where they had national ID cards and everything. Awami League got 50% of the vote and 75% of the seats in parliament. And all this was there, but by sheer sleight of hand, they have just banned the activities of Awami League and decided they will not participate. In fact, even and they conducted this absolutely kangaroo court trial against her and gave her a death sentence, which has prevented her from even being able to go back. So I think all in all, she's been very frank and called a spade a spade. Now, the crucial question in Bangladesh today will be that will these elections be held under these circumstances, because there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of uncertainty in Bangladesh. And number two, if they are held and some results are declared, they're all set to declare a kind of a national government. So put the Jamaat-e-Islami and the BNP all together in the government and put President Yunus, make Yunus as the president of Bangladesh. Other parties are participating, like the Jatiyo Party, but they are not being allowed to campaign. Their offices are burned down and so on. And many parties have just walked away from the election, like the Workers' Party and so on. So it's a very, very delicate and dangerous situation, I think, in Bangladesh today. We have to see what happens in the next few days. And, in anticipation that the election may result in chaos, this government, not even a legitimate government, sworn in on a constitution which does not allow for an interim government. This government is busy on a signing spree, signing agreements with all countries of the world. They're doing one with South Korea, they're doing a deal with Japan. There's an apparent rush to complete the trade deal with the USA, and with the USA, it's a non-disclosure agreement. So we don't know what the Yunus regime will be giving as concessions to the USA, but all they want is that the tariff on USA on Bangladesh goods should be reduced below the Indian tariff of 18%. So they have made that as the condition for the USA and said, make that below 18%, and then we'll give you whatever you want, kind of thing. So everybody's signing agreements, and how can you do it with a government which is not legitimate, which has never been elected, and which has actually not even been able to control the situation in Bangladesh? The economy is on the verge of collapse. It has collapsed. Factories are shut down. The situation of women is about the worst ever in Bangladesh today. And both the parties, BNP and Jamaat-e-Islami, have clearly said in their manifestos that they do not accept the word secularism. So there is no future for the minorities in Bangladesh either. So it's really a very, very difficult
Yes,
and
yes.
soft situation.
This